Hi there, Ange McCabe here from Intuitive Performance, Workplace Training, Coaching, and Facilitation. We're back with Marie Helen Ryder, co-owner of Nearby Planet VR. And today we have Andrew Button, the founder and CEO of Mashup Lab and Work Evolved. We're really excited to get into our interview today so we can discover some of the cool things that are going on in Andrew's neck of the woods.
Hey, Andrew.
Hey, thanks so much, Ange, and hey, Marie, how are you?
Doing great, thank you. Great. Awesome. So, Andrew, why don't you tell us a little bit about your businesses?
Cool. So it really all is just one company, but we operate under a few different brands. But the easiest way for me to explain it is, everything that we do is really focused on one thing, and that's unlocking the entrepreneurial potential of rural communities. So we do that in sort of three different ways. We run what I call activation events in those communities. So things that get the entrepreneurial juices flowing, some ideas sharing, that kind of thing, that builds up people's courage to actually take those first initial steps. And then we run a series of incubation programs, business incubation programs that Andrew would be familiar with. Our flagship program being our Dream Business Program, where people go through a process where they take that kernel of an idea and figure out if there's a great business to be built around that idea. And then the third part of what we do is a network of co-working spaces, one in Bridgewater, one in Mahone Bay, and one soon to be open in Liverpool, that we operate under the Work Evolved brand. So it's all part of the same, what I describe as a for more than profit company. But everything that we do within that is really meant to find entrepreneurial people doing entrepreneurial things and help them build great companies in rural places.
That's great. And if people were looking to get in touch with you or more information about what you do, how could they dial into that?
Yeah, the best place to go would be the Mashup Lab website. There's sort of links from there to all the other things that we do. So that's mashuplab.ca.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
And so we've all been in this tornado of COVID-19 over the past few months. So we're curious to understand, how has this impacted your business and what have you had to do to adapt?
Yeah, it's actually been really fascinating. So to be in this place at this time with two very sort of different businesses. So the things that we do under the Mashup Lab brand, we've been operating and delivering virtually for the last 7 years. So just as an example, in the last 24 months, we've put 170 people through our Dream Business Program that have gone through an online process to start over 90 companies in 60 different communities across the province of Nova Scotia. So on that side of our business, when you think about, organizations like ours are trying now to get their programming online, like we're kind of 6 years ahead of that learning curve. And, places in other provinces and states that have rural economic development challenges that can't do the traditional things that they would normally do to kind of re-kickstart those economies, there's probably more opportunity for us on that side of our business now than there ever was. And we're well positioned to really take advantage of it. And then on the flip side, we've run this network of co-working spaces that we can't fill with entrepreneurial people, right? So we really had to adjust and adapt that side of our business. And really, we're working with freelancers, entrepreneurs, other small businesses that use our co-working space either a day a week, or some people run their business from there full time, that really need that kind of a space in order to sustain their livelihood. So we were really sort of conflicted around how to manage, that part of the business while still, doing what's right by our community and keeping people safe and adhering to all the restrictions and stuff that have been put in place. So I feel like we've landed in a good spot there. But yeah, it's been some days is a real yo-yo. The challenges of dealing with a physical space, but also the head start that we're in with this on the virtual side of our business with the entrepreneurial and business programming. It's been quite exciting.
That's great.
That's fair. So with your physical spaces, what's something that you have been implementing to help? Is like a scheduling with the people that are using your spaces, or what else do you have?
Great question. So our co-working spaces are a combination of private offices that people have, as well as sort of open co-working area that includes just sometimes a hot desk, or some people have their own dedicated workspace within the open co-working area, and it's also available to people that just sort of drop in and need it by the hour. So what we've had to do is restrict the access to the space to those drop-ins, so you can't just sort of drop in whenever you need. And we've had to limit the number of people that can be in our space at any one particular time to a limit of 5. So and we've had to rearrange the space so that everybody is socially distanced when they're there, and all of those kinds of things. A whole new list of protocols that people have to follow when they're accessing the space, that kind of stuff. But for some of those members, like they live in rural places with crappy rural internet, and they have to get access to that space in order to run their business. Or now their entire family is home and they can't get their work done, so they need that dedicated space to get away and actually keep their business going. So in some ways it's essential for some of the folks that we work with, but we really do try to limit it to just those folks, and a limited number of people that can work from the space.
Sounds like you've made a safe space for them to work in. That's great.
Yeah, and a big part of our value proposition, I think, is not just about the space and the great internet and a decent cup of coffee you can get when you go there. It really is the community of people that are sort of congregated around the space. And so we've tried to move a lot of those sort of meetups and things online, and do what we can. Like every Tuesday, we have a Tuesday Talks event. So typically we'd order some sandwiches from the local cafe and gather around the kitchen table at one of our co-working spaces. But in absence of being able to do that, we host a private Zoom room and get our members around the table, and we all sort of have lunch together at least once a week. So, and talk about business and shop and how people are dealing with it, and come up with all kinds of great ideas. Same sort of accelerated serendipity that we would experience in person, but just the next best substitute. Move it to a digital format.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So if you could ask anything right now from our community, what would it be?
So I think there are two big things that I would want people to remember, is that while there are some businesses that are really struggling right now, now is, if there was ever a time to think about what that dream business might be for you, like now's the time to do it. Like there's a significant chunk of time, you don't have as many distractions, you can sort of hunker down and focus, and the world has changed. So business models that might not have been viable 3 or 4 weeks ago are completely viable today. And there's a whole new set of problems that need to be solved in the world, which means there's a whole new set of business opportunities that are out there for people to really think about. And I think it's really important for us to kind of stay in that mindset. So there's two things that we're doing to really support that and help with that. Number one, we're running another cohort of our Dream Business program for folks in Cape Breton. So we're accepting applications for that right now. So people can find more details about that at mashuplab.ca/dreambusiness. The other thing that we're doing is we've taken sort of components from a bunch of different things we've been refining and working on over the last 6 years, and coming up with a series of new programs that we're going to be rolling out over the next weeks and months. So if folks really want to be the first to hear about those kinds of things, if they like this idea of being able to crank on some new business ideas with some other experienced entrepreneurs that can kind of guide them and coach them through the process, then we encourage people to get on our mailing list for that. So you can go to mashuplab.ca/dreambig and get on the list for that.
Mm-hmm. Those sound like two great initiatives to tune into through your Mashup Lab. Thank you for that.
No problem. My pleasure.
That's awesome. And what is something, other than your amazing cohorts, what is something that you're able to give to the community as a small business?
Yeah, so I think as much as our, the programming that we offer take people through a structured process to really, dig deep into their ideas. I think our Tuesday Talks events, we've opened up to anybody that wants to join. And sometimes that sort of semi-structured conversation really gets some of those creative juices flowing. So we really encourage people to join us onto those Zoom calls. You can find out more about those on the Work Evolved Facebook page. There's a whole list of events and stuff. You can get the details there. And really, what I've been offering up is, if people have an idea that they're working on, shoot me an email. Like, there's usually 10, 15-minute chunks throughout the course of the day that we can jump on a quick call and get the ball rolling, or I can reply to the email with a few sort of resources for people to get kickstarted on. So we're happy to offer up all of those things for free. I think the more we can do to get entrepreneurial people doing entrepreneurial things at this time, the better we'll all be in the end. So I'm happy to offer that up.
It's really interesting that everything that's going on that's so awesome between Mashup Lab and Work Evolved really has to wrap around with regards to economic development in the rural areas, as you indicated earlier, Andrew. So, we think that that's a huge share, and that even just people subscribing to your newsletter to understand what's going on around them in a community is a big thing too, for sure.
Yeah, there's a ton of really great stuff that's moving online now that you would have to be in Montreal or Halifax or Charlottetown or all these other places that a lot of them are free or super cheap to access. So I really encourage people to take advantage of a lot of that.
So that makes total sense. When we're looking at our business models right now in consideration to all of the changes, and based on your experience, Andrew, what is one or a few major things that you would put out there to our business community in the sense of helping or aiding people pivot right now?
Yeah, it's a couple things jump to mind there, Ange. Number one, if there's one thing I've learned doing this for a couple decades now, working with a few thousand entrepreneurs, is that it's very rarely the first iteration of your idea that's the winner, right? So usually you come into this process thinking about my business is going to be this, and it's going to serve this customer, it's going to solve this problem. Very rarely is it ever that way. The thing that unlocks the potential of a business idea is this iterative process that people go through by learning about what is the actual problem, all that kind of stuff. So people often will fall in love with their first idea. But if there was ever a time to kind of get back to basics and say, hey, maybe I can take a different approach to this, a different mindset, a different way of thinking about the problem I'm solving and who I'm solving it for, now is it. And sometimes it takes things like this to force people back to basics a bit. And this is where innovation lies. It's this like necessity for having to deal with a situation. That's where the innovative ideas and the innovation comes from. So I really encourage people to just not get too locked into thinking about their business the way they have been up to this point. It's going to change. It has to be different. And now's a beautiful opportunity to do that. And if you can do that in a sort of a safe environment with another group of entrepreneurs that take a different approach to things, all the better. And I think that sort of leads into my second piece of advice is, as much as you can spend your whole day on webinars and doing online courses and all that stuff, sometimes just getting a group of 4 or 5 other entrepreneurs together and say, hey, I'm trying to figure this out. Here's an idea I have, or what do you think about this? Sometimes it's that sort of messy process that unlocks the thing that gets you focused and clear around what to do next. Mm-hmm. Right? So as much as there's lots of content to intake, I think going through that sort of visceral process of the idea exchange with other entrepreneurs that think differently about how to solve problems can be like super, super valuable. So luckily I'm a part of a few sort of peer mentoring groups. I was accepted into the Wallace McCain Institute, their entrepreneurial leaders program this year. So I've got access to 15 other business leaders from around Atlantic Canada that I can get on, call a few of them together on a call and say, help me figure this out, guys. I don't know what to do here. And in 20 minutes or half an hour, I got not just one solution, but 30, right? That, that I can now get to pick from. So, so it's like get back to basics, but also surround yourself with people that you can just be creative with and crank on some new ideas with. I think it can really help get you unstuck when it feels like a time that you could get really bogged down.
That's a lot of valuable information there. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. And so just wondering if you have someone that you'd like to nominate for the challenge today.
Well, I mean, there's dozens across the province that I think are doing some really creative things in response to this crisis. But one that just jumps to mind immediately is Mike and Amelia with the Barn, coffee house and social coffee shop and social house in Mahone Bay. Just the way they've dealt with this challenge of their whole business was really built around gathering people together and giving them this amazing experience, all surrounding like phenomenal coffee. And they've had to really change how they've done that. And I think they're a real inspiration to not just businesses in the food service sector, but I think all entrepreneurs are trying to figure out how to reinvent themselves and keep some things going. So I would nominate Mike and Amelia with the Barn in Mahone Bay.
That's awesome. I'm really looking to get in contact with them, and we'll grab their details offline there, Andrew. Thank you so much for your time. We had so much fun chatting with you, as always. And we also want to thank our viewers for tuning into another Elevate Business Challenge episode. Stay tuned to see Mike and Amelia potentially or hopefully coming up next. And if you're interested in jumping on board with the Elevate Business Challenge, feel free to reach out to us. There's two ways. One could be our Elevate Business Challenge Facebook page. Certainly like and follow us there as well. Or you can reach out to us via our email address at info@intuitiveperformance.com. That's INTUITY performance.com. Thank you so much. Be well.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Great. Keep up the great work, guys. This has been awesome.
Thank you.